Good morning and welcome back to Coriander Quilts. It's another Coriander Saturday. I'm excited to be chatting with all of you once again this week, and thank you so much for stopping by and watching. I've got a fun video planned for us today. I think it's always so interesting how these video topics come about and how it all just flows into one episode every Saturday. So typically I start with something that I know that I'm going to be talking about. The thing that I knew I was going to be talking about was a brand new quilt pattern that I am releasing today, and it's one quilt done 3 different ways. So I'm going to be showing you those 3 different ways and you'll get to see that new pattern. So I knew I wanted to talk about that, and then I went through the viewer questions from previous videos and pulled some that I thought tied in nicely. Nicole was the one who suggested our coriander fun find for today's video, and pretty soon we have a whole video that I get to share with all of you. So I'm excited to chat more about all of these things. Stick around. Let's kick things off with a viewer question. This one comes to us from Melissa Riley 7861. She asked, do you ever make Fat Quarter Shop's designer mystery quilt? And I thought back over the years, I'm not sure exactly when Fat Quarter Shop started making those designer mystery quilts, but I don't think I've ever made one. I have designed a block for everyone starting in 2016. So every year since then, I've designed one of the blocks for the designer mystery sew-along quilt that they do. But I have not participated as far as I know. Now, that is all about to change because they are using my Abloom fabrics for the 2025 designer mystery quilt. And I am going to be sewing along with this mystery quilt. I have already pre-ordered my kits that I wanted, and I'm going to be sewing along with all of you. It's a mystery, so the only block that I know is the one that I designed, which is actually this one that they are using to advertise the mystery block of the month. So this is the one I designed, so I know what that looks like, but I have no idea what the rest of the blocks look like. I don't know what the finishing kit looks like. So it's going to be fun just being surprised along with everybody else. For those of you unfamiliar with Fat Quarter Shop's designer mystery block of the month, the way it works is you can sign up for 3 different options. You have the option to sign up just for the block patterns and then the fabric kits that would get mailed to you every month. You have the option of also adding on the finishing kit. So this would give you the fabrics and the instructions that you would need to put all of your blocks together. We get a little bit of a hint of finishing, what we're kind of looking at for this. And then the third option is the backing option. So then this would give you, this is a 108-inch wide of Abloom fabric. It would give you the backing that you need to complete your quilt. So 3 different options. I'm going to have all of this linked down below so that if you decide you want to sign up and join in with all of us that are doing this in the upcoming year, it runs June 2025 through May 2026. So we have a little bit of time before it starts, but if that's something that you think you would enjoy participating in, I'm going to have that linked for all of you. And I wanted to show you this backing fabric. It is the only 108-inch wide backing fabric for this collection, and actually Fat Quarter Shop is the only shop that's going to be carrying this 108-inch wide fabric. It is this print right here, the large scale floral on white. Abloom, when we put the collection together, did not have any 108-inch wide fabrics, and Fat Quarter Shop worked with Moda to be able to provide the 108-inch wide since they were using Abloom for the mystery block of the month. So you can purchase this to go with this quilt if you wanted, but you could also purchase these fabrics, this 108-inch wide, to go with any of your Abloom fabrics, but it's only the one print and it's only available through Fat Quarter Shop. I will link to this print. I think they are taking pre-orders. I could be way off, but I'm going to see what I can find about that and link so that if you are like me and you like those 108s, you have that option. So I had a couple questions about Abloom, and I thought, well, this ties right into this segment perfectly. And I think I've answered 2 of the questions. The first one was from Michelle Striegel, 7243. She was asking, is there just the one 108-inch wide back in the white floral print, or will there be 108 in another color? Just the one. And then Becky Martin 203 said, will there be wide backs for a bloom? Just the one, just this friendly little floral right here. So that answers those two questions. And then I had two more questions about Abloom fabrics, which were the same. Jerry Waddle 1196 said, does Abloom go with Beautiful Day? And Kathy Hutchins 5298 said, would Abloom work well with Beautiful Day? So I have pulled Beautiful Day fabrics and Abloom fabrics so you can see how they look together. They are different palettes. So Abloom is more peaches, corals, you know, those orangey shades, and Beautiful Day is more of the pinky shades and reds. So they are different tones, but I always think it's helpful just to see things side by side. So we're going to start with these whites up here. These are the Beautiful Day whites, and then we have the Abloom whites. So you can see how those look side by side. You know, they're just, a Beautiful Day is more pinks and reds. Abloom is more of the orangey shades. So I think some of them would be really pretty together, you know, like these little prints like this. I think you could easily mix back and forth. And that's often the case with my collections, even if the two collections as a whole, you might not put all of the fabrics together. There are pretty much always going to be fabrics within each collection that are going to mix and match nicely. And you're going to see that some of the colorways do work really well together. So those are the whites. I'm going to pull the greens right away because the greens are definitely a different shade in Abloom than they are here in Beautiful Day. So here we have the Beautiful Day greens, and then we have these Abloom greens on this side, Beautiful Day on this side. So you can see that Beautiful Day has more of a yellowy undertone to it. And then these are the Abloom greens. So that's what the greens look like together. We will pull the pinks here. So the equivalent in Abloom would be these peachy colors over here. You can see the difference in those pinks as opposed to these more peachy corals. There is no aqua in Beautiful Day, but we've got all of these beautiful aquas in Abloom. And for those of you not familiar with Abloom, I did share a video showing all of the fabrics in detail and then all of the quilts that I released to go with the Abloom fabric. So I'll make sure and have those linked below. Abloom will be in quilt shops later in 2025. I think it's an April release if I'm remembering right. So a nice spring release of these springtime fabrics. Now, when we move into the grays, I think that these grays mix pretty nicely across the board between Beautiful Day and Abloom. My grays are often similar in collections when I use grays. I like using Etchings Charcoal, Etchings Slate, and Etchings Stone. Those are the names of the Bella solids that my grays most frequently match, and they are these really nice warm grays. And so I think any of these you could mix and match really easily, even when you are, you know, this one has a little bit of the orangier colors, but I still think it's very pretty together. So you can see those. And then here we go into the darker grays. Again, I think these mix pretty nicely, different shades, but I think they'd be pretty together, especially depending on what else you were pulling in. And I'm gonna just slide the grays out a little bit so you can see all of the dark grays and the light grays between both collections. That gives you an idea. If you wanted to do just a gray quilt with all of these mixed together, I think that would be really pretty. You can see these sketchy florals. These always sell really quickly and can become hard to find, but if you were looking for something to mix in with Beautiful Day that has the sketch, if you can't get this little guy up here, this one you could easily pull over and use with Beautiful Day for a Beautiful Day background. So that gives you an idea of how those two collections are going to mix together. If you ever have questions like that, wondering about, you know, does canning day go with sunny side up, or will pepper and flax mix with buttercup and slate? You are always welcome to ask. I think it's easiest sometimes to see things on video, but sometimes I'll do photos over on my blog as well. So feel free to ask questions like that, and I'll do my best to show what might work and what might not work. There are the beautiful day reds. I hadn't showed those, but there are obviously no reds in Abloom. So, and Beautiful Day has been in quilt shops for a while. I don't remember what year that came out. 2021 it looks like. So it has been in quilt shops for a while. Some of the prints are harder to find, but you can still get some of those different prints. All right, I'm going to set these over to the side. We're going to move into Coriander Fun Find. You guys know that Nicole changed out my backdrop a couple weeks ago to this wonderful fall theme. I just want to remind everyone that if you ever wonder what names of quilt patterns are, or if there is a pattern for a quilt pattern in my backdrop, I always have that linked in the description box below the video. So you can find that information there. But one of the things she added was this pretty book up here. It's called 57 Buttermilk Acres. And she said, hey, why don't you share about that book? I just added that to the backdrop a couple weeks ago, and I think your viewers would maybe be interested in seeing that. And I thought, hey, that's a great idea, because I don't think I've ever talked about this book. So I pulled a copy of it. This is 57 Buttermilk Acres. It's by Stacy West. I do have a few extra copies in my Etsy shop. I thought it was such a pretty book. When I purchased mine, it's been a few years, but I purchased extras because I thought it was so pretty and thought maybe some others would enjoy seeing it too. But it is more of a home decor book. I don't share a lot of home decor things on this channel. I stick pretty quilt minded, but I thought this was so pretty, and I kind of wanted we'll just leaf through it a little bit. But Stacy talks about how she mixes kind of vintage finds along with new things that she has, and it's just full of so many beautiful pictures. And I just like the way it looks. I enjoy antiquing quite a bit. In fact, Eleni, my youngest daughter, my 16-year-old, also really enjoys antiquing. She just said to me yesterday, hey mom, we need to go visit such and such antique mall. I want to go tomorrow. So when you're watching this video, she would have said this to me on a Monday, and she said on Tuesday we need to go and go to this antique mall, because she really enjoys hitting the antique shops. We have wonderful antique shops. We've got great quilt shops and great antique shops where I live. So we are frequently in antique stores, and in fact, I think it's been only maybe 2 weeks or so since we were last in one. We do visit them pretty often, but we all like those fun finds, seeing what's in antique stores, and then just being able to bring in those neat finds in with some new things when you are decorating your home is really fun. So this is a little peek at this book, and actually I bookmarked this little spot here because I thought it was such a nice way to look at decorating your home. Your home should be the place where you're happiest, the spot where memories are made and joys are celebrated. I look back fondly at gathering 3 generations of family around the table, and of course, holiday festivities. I strive to make all the rooms in our home joyful spaces, and you don't need a special occasion to make a memory. I just thought that was so nice. I think that's just a wonderful way to approach how you are setting up the spaces within your home, just making them joyful and bringing in things that just make you happy, make you joyful, make those who come into your home joyful. And I really like that sentiment. And it got me thinking a little bit about quilt making, you know, how this book is set up, where we are bringing in old, mixing with new. And it just reminded me so much of quilt making. I know for myself personally, I am always drawn to the traditions that have been passed down in quilt making. It's, you know, it's been around for years. We have a rich history of quilts, quilt making, quilt blocks, why women made quilt blocks and quilts, and you know, and how we're using it now. So we have this wonderful throwback to old times mixed in with all of the new that we have in quilt making, new fabrics, new colors, new construction techniques, new tools, but it's still just a timeless tradition that has been passed down through the generations. So I don't know if that's why this book kind of hit a special chord with me or not, but I just think it's a beautiful book. So 57 Buttermilk Acres by Stacy West. That's the Coriander Fun Find for this week. And now we are going to move into one quilt 3 ways. So I'm going to hang one of the quilts up behind me and I'll meet you right back here. All right, here she is. This quilt pattern is called Bespoke. It was originally in the I Love 9 Patches book that was compiled by Karen Burns. And I decided it was time to release this pattern as an individual pattern. But I wanted to show it to you in a couple different ways. So originally I made it using Prairie Fabrics. This was my very first fabric line way back in, when was it? I think 2015, Prairie came out. And I mixed it with solid white, so this would be Motabella Solid in the color 200, and then the chain throughout the blocks is a Mochi linen. It's this dot fabric, which I've used quite a bit, and I always enjoy how it mixes with the warm colors that I like using. So that is a peek at the very first quilt made using this pattern. I made another quilt using this pattern as I was working on illustrating and getting the individual pattern ready to go, and I knew I wanted to reverse the darks and lights in this quilt. So I made it using the low volumes from Callie & Co. Callie & Co. should be out in quilt shops very soon. I think we're looking at the end of this month. So you should start seeing these fabrics popping up pretty soon. And I mixed it with one of Robin Pickens' thatched fabrics for that dark background. And then the chain fabric is from my Coriander Seeds line of fabric. I'm going to show you these in more detail up close, but I think it's so pretty how different the two quilts look. Let me slide to the side here so you can kind of see them side by side, depending on how you switch those fabrics. I enjoy using a dark background. I use white backgrounds more frequently, but I like a dark background just as well. And I know some of you prefer one over the other, so it's always fun to see how a quilt looks when it's reversed. So here, I need to move some of my things out of the road. There we go. Here is this quilt, so you can see it a bit better. But I really like the way that dark thatched fabric highlights all of these beautiful low volume prints. Let's take a look at this pattern a little bit. So Bespoke, again, it was originally featured in the I Love 9 Patches book by Karen M. Burns. It was a compilation book, so a number of different quilt pattern designers all submitted patterns for the book. So if you have that book, you already have this pattern. But if you don't, you are now able to get this pattern as a single pattern over in my Etsy shop. I'm just releasing it today. As I have started adding the skill set to the back of all my patterns, you're going to see that here. A fairly simple quilt to piece, you would need to have an accurate 1/4 inch seam allowance, a lot of half square triangles. You can see it's primarily half square triangles, and then we have strip piecing in these chain blocks. Now, this quilt can be made using straight 1/4 yard cuts. That's what I used for this one in the background, straight 1/4 yard cuts of all of those colorful brights. For this quilt here, I used fat quarters, so you can substitute 12 fat quarters. And as I said, I used Callie & Co. low volumes for this quilt. Let's slide this to the side just a little bit, that you can see this a bit better. Are you going to stay? I think you are. There we go. Okay, so I used one of each of the prints that have a white background from Callie & Co. And there just happened to be 12 of them. So these are the prints that I used. And I think it turned out so pretty. I wanted to do something fun using these lower volumes, and this quilt fit the bill. So those are the prints that I used, all from Callie & Co. And then the thatched fabric, thought some of you might like that number as well. This is the color Graphite, and the number is 48626-115. This is a Robin Pickens fabric, and it is a cooler gray than some of the grays that I used, but I really liked the way it looked with all of those, with all of the prints here in Callie & Co. And then the floral that I used for the white is the same print as this one right here. And this is from Coriander Seeds. It's a basic. It is always in quilt shops. So that's what that one was. Now I mentioned one quilt 3 ways. We've seen it 2 ways, but there's another fun way that you could also make this. Let's move. We're just moving things all around here today, aren't we? Move these out of the way. And so this is the one behind me, right here. And then this is the one right here beside us. So you can see how different those look. And then the third way you can do this quilt is more similar to this version, but this utilizes 2 charm packs. So the pieces that we need for all of these scrappy brights can be cut from straight 1/4 yard cuts, can be cut from fat quarters. You'd need 12 straight 1/4 yard cuts or 12 fat quarters or 2 charm packs. You can also do this scrappy. And that means that you can utilize your scrap fabrics if you wanted to and go really scrappy. So that is what this would look like if you went really scrappy. And then for the chains here, let me grab this. I used one of the prints from Abloom. So let me pull the print here. I should have left these close by. I used one of the light grays for that chain, and it is the light gray sketch fabric. This one right here. So that's what this fabric is. It's this sketchy gray print, which I really liked with these Callie & Co. Brights. So that is an example of, a print that works really well from collection to collection. So it's beautiful with Abloom, but this is going to be one that you're going to also be able to pull in and mix and match with previous collections. So by the time Abloom comes out, Callie & Co. will be a previous collection. Callie & Co., as I said, is coming out very soon, within the next couple weeks, and then Abloom is a spring collection. But you can see how nicely that mixes in with those Callie & Co. Brights. So that is one quilt, 3 ways. Which one do you guys prefer? Do you like the dark background? Do you like the light background, or are you scrappy all the way? I think all 3 options are really pretty. I don't know which one I would say is my favorite. The dark is really striking. Let me hold that one up again for you guys. I think the dark is so nice. I know sometimes people are a little bit afraid to use those white backgrounds on their quilts, just because maybe they're going to get a lot of use, a lot of wear, and they're unsure if they're going to be able to keep it as pristine as they might prefer. So sometimes these dark backgrounds are just the ticket. So you get that nice contrast there, but it's not going to be as hard to keep clean maybe as this one hanging behind me. So there they are. So let me know which of the 3 is your favorite. I've got the pattern in PDF as well as paper over in the Etsy shop today. So if you wanted to snag this pattern for yourself, you could. It's a fun one to piece. It didn't take me that long. I wanted to time myself, and then something happened. I started timing myself because I always think it's helpful to know, hey, is this a weekend project or is this a, year-long project? Some of those hand piecing projects, you are invested in those. But so I thought I was going to time myself and let you guys know how long it would take to piece, but I got interrupted by something. I don't even remember what it was, and that idea flew out the window, but I do remember it didn't take long. There was a fair amount of trimming on those half square triangles, and that was by far what took the longest, was trimming half square triangles, but not tricky, and it did go quickly. The chain blocks especially went really nice and fast with all of that strip piecing. So that is my video for today. I thank you guys so much for stopping by. Let me know if you have any questions you'd want answered in an upcoming video, or anything I can do to help you out. I appreciate you stopping by, and I'll catch you again next time.